Thomas Jefferson, polymath, President of the United States. In the Napoleonic era, he purchased Louisiana from the French at merely $5 per acre. He increased the United States size by over 50%, so it was twice as big as it was before. This is what he called an empire of liberty. Now, for all its faults, the United States is perhaps one of the freest places on earth. It's also a hyperpower. According to the General Fred Franks from Tom Clancy's Into the Storm, who devised the attack in Kuwait, which destroyed Iraq's Soviet NKVD fascistic Republican Guards, also was behind the idea of placing American equipment throughout the world so that American troops could simply be deployed there and there would be a ready, effective arsenal for them to use in defence of the liberty of the United States. But is this liberty simply the United States' liberty, or is it, according to Tom Paine, whose book is here, Tom Paine, The Rights of Man and Common Sense, who also details, who was a friend of Thomas Jefferson, and also details a great deal about how America was founded. Are those liberties, those natural rights of the rights of man, the right to life, liberty and happiness, the pursuit of happiness, are they universal rights? Well, it's arguable to say that George Bush believed that they were, although on the other side of George Bush you can see a very flawed character. George Bush seemed to, after 9/11, to wish to extend these rights to everyone in the world. Unfortunately, he did it by war. This is the belief in American exceptionalism, that America won't follow the same path as other European empires. And as I discussed in my previous talk, US and EU, are they empires? It's shown that America is perhaps so technologically advanced that perhaps it won't follow the same traits as a universal empire. Perhaps it will withdraw, as it has done many times before. This is just an intervention rather than a bid for empire. You've certainly seen a very ruthless campaign in Iraq and a ruthless campaign against Al-Qaeda. Now, the second was completely justified. The first against Saddam, completely justified. Whether there was weapons of mass destruction there or not, because Saddam's regime was murderous, it had harboured terrorism. Magnier, al-Zarqawi had all been to Baghdad. There's several, also the 1982 Iranian embassy siege in Baghdad, that was all orchestrated by Saddam Hussein. He was killing hundreds of thousands of people a year, and perhaps just as many people have now died because of George Bush's war. Now this, I think, is down to not get bogged down in details, because this talk is about how America's extended liberty rather than the Iraq War. What was criminal about the Iraq War was that they didn't go in with enough troops. In 1991, when they did have enough troops, 700,000 American troops were in the Gulf with allies. They could have gone to Baghdad, and so the crime of the Iraq War was not to have gone in sooner. You can read more about President Jefferson in Christopher Hitchens' excellent book, The Jefferson, Author of America, because Thomas Jefferson was the author of the American Constitution. And the American Constitution is perhaps one of the greatest works of writing, because it details that every citizen has equality under the law, and also natural rights are guaranteed, law and justice for all. It says in the first passage we of the Declaration of Independence, we take these truths to be self-evident that all men are born equal. Now, does this mean under the law? The crux of the Empire of Liberty is, can you have liberty and equality? Well, I would say that the EU gives more economic rights than the United States, and so, for instance, after a woman and a partner have had a baby, and they would have time off, just like in Sweden. And there's been an influence from Sweden and social democracy in the EU. Well, this wasn't around in Jefferson's time. He was a liberal or a libertarian in the time, in his age. Is the United States now an empire of liberty? That's the point. That's the crucial point. Are empires and liberty conducive to each other? Well, Gore Vidal argues that they are not. He argues there is the last empire after 9/11, that the Americans are going on an imperial adventure. But the exceptionalism of the United States can be seen also in Penguin's history of America, because the United States was not founded as an empire. Jefferson did use that word. He saw it as an empire, but the whole breadth of American history has been anti-imperialist, even as they have made arguably an empire in the Philippines. They were still anti-imperialist towards the British Empire. This is one of the main reasons they got rid of the British Empire after the Second World War. Now, today, America has over 1,000 military bases around the world. Not all of them are massive. Some of them are just simply small listening stations, but others, like the Green Zone in Baghdad, are huge, and they hold thousands of troops. But it must be remembered that the entire American military, the entire armed forces of the army in America, are only 500,000 men. Is this really an army that can occupy a country? It can bring tremendous military force to bear on one country at a time, or maybe up to 4 countries at a time, but it can't hold territorially, contiguously, the whole area that it has an interest in, which of course is the entire world. Now, where these military bases are usually in dictatorial, not very nice countries, such as Tajikistan, which has just said that it's going to get rid of its base there, the American base there, for the Russian base, because the Russians have offered them more money. So these minor powers, minor tribal, even you can say even tribal powers in Central Asia and other parts of the world, do have some power over where the Americans stay. That's not quite the same as the Americans saying, this is our empire, we're going to put troops there, and there's nothing you can do or say against it. So there is some sovereignty and some liberty for the people to decide that they don't want liberty in their country because they don't want the Americans there. The Americans have brought economic benefits and some push towards democracy, but this is not completely without some alternative motive. A lot of it is to do with seizing resources and getting resources cheaply, but more importantly it's about security. So is the United States an empire? Well, in my other talk I've explained. So thank you for listening.